They told you losing muscle after 65 was just aging, until scientists found a single food that reverses it naturally, faster than eggs ever could. Nursing homes started serving it weekly, and the recovery data shocked researchers in 2022. So, what makes this humble food more powerful than years of supplements? Let's see why. They told you to eat your eggs every morning, but what if I said there's something even better hiding in your fridge? Every doctor in the 1960s said the same thing. Start your day with eggs. Back then, it made perfect sense. Eggs had become the symbol of health and strength. Each one carried around 6 grams of protein, enough to keep a working man full through long hours on the job. But that advice never considered one truth. Our bodies after 65 play by new rules. The thing no one talks about is how digestion changes with age. The muscles that break down food weaken, absorption slows, and the body demands more to get the same effect. So even if you eat your usual 2 eggs, your body might use barely half that protein efficiently. That's why fatigue creeps in. That's why climbing stairs suddenly feels heavier. Here's the twist. Science found foods that quietly outperform eggs in both absorption and muscle response. A 2021 study from the Journal of Nutrition for Aging compared protein utilization in seniors and discovered that certain dairy-based and plant-based proteins triggered muscle rebuilding faster than eggs did. The reason? They contained higher leucine, the amino acid that wakes up muscle fibers after a meal. You don't need powders or supplements. The food that beats eggs hides in plain sight, simple, inexpensive, and sitting in your fridge right now. It's something people once overlooked because it seemed too ordinary. But now, doctors at Mayo Clinic call it a muscle-preserving miracle. So what changed? Why did one everyday food suddenly take the crown from the classic breakfast hero? That story starts with the quiet breakdown happening inside every aging body, and what truly happens when muscle starts to fade. Why does your body change so much after 65? And what really happens when you stop getting enough protein? One day, you stand up from a chair and feel it. Your legs take a moment longer to respond. It's subtle at first, a little slower, a little shakier. You think maybe it's just getting older, but inside, something real is happening. Your body is losing muscle, gram by gram, every single day. Doctors call it sarcopenia, and it begins earlier than most people realize, often in your 40s, but it speeds up sharply after age 65. Studies from the National Institutes of Health show that adults over 65 can lose 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade. That might not sound like much, but by the time you hit your late 70s, it can mean losing nearly 1/3 of your total muscle strength. The scary part? It doesn't stop there. With less muscle comes slower metabolism, weaker balance, and a higher risk of falls. A simple stumble can suddenly turn into months of recovery. That's why researchers at Tufts University call muscle the true engine of aging. When the engine slows down, everything else does too. Energy, mobility, even memory. Now here's the twist. Most seniors still eat the same way they did in their 30s. A piece of toast, a cup of coffee, maybe a boiled egg. But your older body absorbs protein differently. The process that once worked smoothly now needs double the input to get the same output. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket. You need more to stay level. That's why scientists at McMaster University found that seniors often need 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal just to trigger muscle repair. The average breakfast in America has under 15 grams. That gap explains why so many older adults lose strength even when they eat enough. But here's where the story takes a hopeful turn. Modern nutrition research discovered that certain everyday foods, some you already have in your fridge, activate muscle growth more efficiently than the typical breakfast staples we grew up trusting. So what if the problem isn't aging itself, but the kind of protein we're feeding our muscles? Because in the next part of this story, we'll look at what truly makes muscles rebuild, and why the solution has been sitting quietly on your plate for years, waiting to be noticed. Here's the part most doctors forget to say. It's not age that makes you weak, it's what you stop feeding your muscles. Every person over 65 hears the same line. You're just getting older? But that explanation hides the real cause behind fading strength. The truth has more to do with nutrition debt than age itself. See, your muscles are like savings accounts. When you're young, they grow fast because your body keeps depositing protein every time you eat. But after 60, the body gets stingier. It stops investing protein into new muscle as easily. So even if you eat the same foods, your deposits shrink and your withdrawals keep coming. By 70, your body uses up to 30% less dietary protein for repair compared to when you were 30. That means you could eat the same omelet you've had for decades and still lose muscle over time. Scientists from McGill University call this the anabolic resistance effect. It's like your body goes deaf to the signal that says, build more muscle. Now here's where it gets interesting. Certain foods can shout that signal louder. They wake up your muscle fibers and push them to rebuild meal after meal. That's why some seniors who change how they eat see shocking turnarounds in just weeks. One 2022 study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults over 70 who increased their high-quality protein intake gained 2.5 pounds of lean muscle in 3 months, without stepping into a gym. Think about that. No heavy weights, no extreme diets, just feeding the body what it's been craving for years. The mistake most people make, they focus on calories instead of quality. They eat cereal, toast, or fruit in the morning and call it breakfast, but their muscles are starving for amino acids, the building blocks they stopped getting. Your body isn't giving up on you, it's waiting for a louder message. So, what are these everyday foods that speak your body's language better than eggs ever could? Because the answer comes from a surprising set of experiments where scientists compared muscle recovery between common breakfast foods, and one simple food came out on top, gram for gram. Everyone talks about eggs like they're the gold standard, so why are scientists saying some everyday foods actually build muscle faster? For generations, eggs owned the breakfast table. They were called nature's perfect protein. Even the American Heart Association used to promote an egg-a-day slogan in the 1950s. 6 grams of clean protein, easy to cook, cheap to buy. What could possibly top that? But something surprising happened in 2018. Researchers at the University of Illinois compared muscle recovery in older adults who ate eggs versus those who ate certain dairy and soy-based proteins. The results flipped the old belief upside down. The group that consumed dairy and soy rebuilt 25% more muscle tissue after exercise than the egg group. The reason came down to how fast the body could use that protein, and eggs, it turned out, were a little slow. Your body cares about amino acids, the building blocks of protein. Some foods trigger a faster muscle response because they hit the bloodstream quicker. Greek yogurt, for instance, contains roughly 17 grams of protein per 170 grams, plus a strong dose of leucine, the amino acid that tells your body it's time to repair. In one study, people over 65 who added high leucine dairy to breakfast improved leg strength within 12 weeks without changing their workout routines. Tempeh, a fermented soybean staple, also shocked researchers. 1 cup carries over 30 grams of protein and digests efficiently thanks to its natural enzymes. Seniors who added it to lunches saw measurable improvements in balance tests within 6 weeks. Meanwhile, fish like tuna and salmon offer a double win. About 22 grams of protein per 3-ounce serving plus omega-3 fats that help muscles recover. Scientists at the University of Stirling found that older adults who ate fish twice a week gained muscle mass nearly twice as fast as those who relied on eggs alone. So maybe the real story isn't about replacing eggs, but rethinking what complete protein means after 65. Because there's one more number that decides whether your meals actually build muscle or just maintain it. And that's the single figure almost everyone overlooks when planning their day. The magic number your muscles have been waiting for, and why one meal a day of protein won't cut it anymore. There's a simple reason so many older adults lose muscle even when they eat plenty. The timing is wrong. Most people pack all their protein into dinner, leaving breakfast and lunch light and quick. But your body doesn't save protein for later. It uses what it gets, when it gets it. And after 65, that window matters more than ever. Researchers at McMaster University discovered a fascinating pattern in 2019. When older adults spread their protein evenly across 3 meals, about 30 grams per meal, they built twice as much muscle as those who ate the same total amount all at once in the evening. The takeaway was simple. The muscles can't handle one big flood. They need a steady stream. That 30-gram mark isn't random. It's called the leucine threshold, the point at which your body says, yes, I have enough to start rebuilding. Below that line, nothing happens. You could eat a small egg and toast breakfast every morning for years and never hit that trigger. One egg has about 6 grams of protein, which means you'd need at least 5 eggs just to cross the threshold. That's why scientists started calling it the missing meal problem. Older adults usually hit their daily protein target, but they fail at the distribution. So while dinner looks like a feast, chicken, rice, maybe a bit of fish, breakfast and lunch leave muscles running on fumes. The result? Slow, quiet decline. But here's the good news. Fixing it doesn't require expensive supplements or shakes. Just a simple shift, adding a scoop of Greek yogurt or a slice of smoked salmon to breakfast or beans and lentils to lunch, changes everything. Within 6 weeks, measurable strength improvements can appear, even without extra workouts. So maybe the secret to rebuilding strength after 65 isn't about eating more, but smarter. And once you know that number, you start to see a pattern, because certain foods cross that line with ease, and they're already sitting quietly in your kitchen waiting to surprise you. Let's open your pantry and look at the quiet champions. These foods quietly beat eggs gram for gram. The foods that quietly outperform eggs never came with fancy labels or celebrity endorsements. They just sat in pantries and fridges, waiting to be rediscovered. Most of them were common in the 1940s and 1950s, back when home-cooked meals ruled and strength came from simple staples. Let's start with cottage cheese, a favorite of early bodybuilders and post-war homemakers alike. It packs around 27 grams of protein per cup, nearly 5 times that of a single egg. What's special is how your body uses it. Cottage cheese releases amino acids slowly over several hours, feeding muscles long after you've finished eating. That's why doctors at the Mayo Clinic call it a night protein. Eating it before bed helps stop overnight muscle loss, a quiet fix for something most people never think about. Then there's Greek yogurt, the thick kind strained of water. It contains roughly 17 grams of protein in 1 serving plus calcium and probiotics that keep digestion smooth, something many older adults struggle with. During World War II, Greek soldiers carried a similar strained yogurt on long marches for endurance. Cheap, portable strength in a pouch. Lentils and beans also deserve a second look. 1 cooked cup holds 18 grams of protein and a powerful mix of fiber and minerals. In the Great Depression, these humble foods kept entire families fed and strong when meat was rare. Today, they remain one of the most cost-effective proteins per dollar, proving that good nutrition doesn't have to drain your wallet. Tuna earns a special mention. 22 grams of protein in 3 ounces. No cooking required. It was once a survival food for sailors. Now it's an easy, high-quality protein for anyone who wants muscle repair without fuss. Add a drizzle of olive oil, and you've built a meal as strong as it is simple. When you put these foods together, a cup of yogurt at breakfast, lentils at lunch, a little fish at dinner, you create a rhythm that feeds your muscles around the clock. Small, steady, effective, But how do you turn all that knowledge into a daily plan that fits real life, especially when cooking for one or two feels like a chore? Because that's where most people fall off, not in knowing what to eat, but how to make it stick. A day on the plate of someone rebuilding strength, here's how to turn these foods into a simple plan that actually fits your life. Rebuilding muscle after 65 doesn't happen in the gym first, it happens at the kitchen table. The trick is to make it feel effortless, something you can live with every day. Most people give up on healthy eating because they overcomplicate it. But what if one small shift at each meal changed everything? Let's start with breakfast. Morning is when most seniors miss their biggest chance to feed muscle. A single cup of Greek yogurt with a handful of oats and berries gives around 25 grams of protein, enough to cross that leucine threshold. Add a spoon of peanut butter and you've hit 30 grams. Muscle repair mode officially activated before 9 a.m. That's strength before coffee even kicks in. Lunch should be light but steady. Think lentil soup or tuna salad. Easy to digest, high in protein, and low in fuss. A bowl of lentil soup carries 18 grams of protein, and tossing in a little grated cheese or diced chicken pushes it higher. Pair it with fruit or whole grain bread, and you've built a balanced, affordable meal. Dinner is where you anchor the day. Grilled salmon or cottage cheese with steamed vegetables checks every box. 22 grams of protein, healthy fats and nutrients that reduce inflammation. Researchers at the University of Newcastle found that older adults who hit 90 grams of total daily protein, spread through 3 meals, improved leg strength by over 30% in just 12 weeks. The secret wasn't exercise alone, it was meal rhythm. And yes, snacks count too. A glass of milk before bed or a handful of roasted soy nuts between meals keeps that slow, steady repair going. You're not chasing calories, you're feeding strength, one meal at a time. The beauty of this approach is how flexible it becomes. You can follow it anywhere, at home, in a diner, even when cooking feels like too much. It's a system that adapts to you, not the other way around. But here's the real accelerator. Food alone works, but pairing it with one simple daily habit multiplies the results beyond anything diet alone can do. What kind of movement does that? And why do scientists call it the body's youth switch? Food helps, but movement seals the deal. Why a few minutes of resistance can multiply your results. Protein feeds the muscle, but movement wakes it up. The moment you start using your muscles again, even a little, something amazing happens inside the body. Your cells begin responding to that signal like they did decades ago. Scientists call it muscle protein synthesis. But in plain words, it's your body saying, hey, we're building again. The best part, you don't need a gym or heavy weights. Studies from Tufts University in the 1990s showed that seniors in their 80s who lifted light dumbbells for just 20 minutes, 3 times a week, regained up to 30% of their lost strength in 8 weeks. Some even started walking without canes again. One woman, 87 years old, reportedly went from struggling to rise from a chair to carrying groceries within a month. It isn't about brute strength, it's about function. Getting out of bed without help, opening jars, climbing stairs. Resistance movement keeps those everyday wins alive. Every push-up, every squat, every step tells your muscles they still matter. Even simple habits work. Doing sit-to-stands, rising from a chair 10 times, twice a day, builds the same muscle fibers as expensive gym machines. Stretch bands cost less than a dinner out and mimic the resistance your muscles crave. And walking with small hand weights gives your upper body a subtle but steady workout that burns calories long after the walk ends. But here's where it connects with food. Exercise and protein are a team. After resistance movement, your body becomes a sponge for nutrients. That means the protein you eat after a short walk or chair workout builds more muscle than if you'd just eaten and rested. That's why doctors now say, exercise opens the door, protein walks through it. Within a few weeks of combining movement with balanced protein, people report sharper energy, steadier sleep, even better balance. It's the kind of transformation you feel more than you see. And it keeps building quietly, meal by meal, step by step. Yet, even as more seniors learn this, many are still held back by half-truths, old myths about protein and aging that once made sense but now cost people their strength and independence. So what if everything you were told about too much protein was completely backward? The biggest myths about protein and aging, and why cutting meat or fearing too much protein costs people their independence. Somewhere along the way, the story got twisted. People began hearing that too much protein could hurt their kidneys, that meat was dangerous, that aging meant eating lighter. But here's the truth. Cutting protein as you age speeds up muscle loss, the very thing that steals independence. The myth traces back to the 1970s, when doctors studying kidney disease warned against excessive protein for patients who already had severe kidney damage. That message got repeated, simplified, and slowly became advice for everyone. Yet multiple studies from Harvard and the Journal of Nutrition show that for healthy adults, even those in their 70s and 80s, higher protein intake preserves mobility and extends life. Think about this. In 2018, researchers tracked 2,900 older adults for 23 years. Those who ate at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily had a 45% lower risk of losing strength or developing disabilities. The group that ate less was more likely to need assistance for walking or climbing stairs within 10 years. The difference wasn't luck, it was lunch. But the myth runs deep. Many older adults, especially women, fear heavy meals or meat because they remember post-war diets of scarcity or heart-healthy fads from the 1980s. Yet the science has moved on. Lean meats, fish, eggs, and even high-protein plants like lentils or tofu protect lean tissue, balance hormones, and keep metabolism humming. It's also about quality. The amino acid leucine triggers the muscle repair signal, something eggs have but foods like dairy, fish, and soy have in higher amounts per gram. Without enough leucine, muscles never fully rebuild after meals. That's why someone can eat enough calories, but still lose strength year after year. Here's the most striking fact. Protein-rich diets in seniors can lower the risk of falls by up to 40%, according to the British Medical Journal. Fewer falls mean fewer hospital stays, more confidence, and more years spent living independently. But food and science can only take you so far without heart, because underneath every study and number lies something deeper, the reason to fight for your strength. So what happens when that reason becomes personal? When feeding yourself turns into feeding your future? You've spent a lifetime taking care of everyone else. Maybe now it's time to feed your own strength again. There comes a point when you realize your body has been carrying stories longer than most people have lived. The years, the work, the worry, they've all added weight, but they've also built wisdom. You've fed kids before feeding yourself. You've kept the lights on when paychecks ran thin. You've shown up every single time someone needed you. But here's the twist. Now your body needs you. Really needs you. Strength at this stage is no longer about lifting heavy things. It's about lifting yourself into another decade of independence. Every bite of protein, every walk to the mailbox, every choice to move rather than rest, it all adds up. The small, quiet habits are what decide whether the next years feel light or heavy. Look at what the research says. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that adults over 65 who eat balanced, high-protein diets and do regular resistance training cut their risk of losing mobility by nearly 60%. The same report found that those who maintain leg and core strength stay out of hospitals longer, spend less on medication, and recover faster from illness. The payoff is measured in freedom, not just fitness. Then there's the emotional side. Strong muscles stabilize more than joints. They stabilize confidence. When you can get up from a chair easily, when stairs don't scare you, Life opens up again. It feels like getting a part of yourself back that you didn't realize had gone missing. So yes, the old saying, use it or lose it, carries more truth than ever. But the beauty is, you can still use it, you can still build it, you can still live in a body that listens, responds, and supports every goal you've kept on the back burner for decades. And here's something most people overlook. Your next chapter of health doesn't begin with exercise or diet alone. It starts with a small, daily ritual that quietly rebuilds strength from the inside out. A habit almost no one talks about, yet studies in 2023 revealed it can boost muscle recovery by nearly 25% in seniors who try it. Would you guess it has nothing to do with food or movement at all? Strength has no age limit, and this story proves it. Click the next video on your screen before it disappears. It continues this journey and reveals what really happens when muscle meets food science.